Hello everyone, my name is Walter and I am the CEO/Creative Director of Creative Media Vault in Tokyo, Japan. And today I'll be showing you how I make simple animated cutscenes for my gaming projects using Procreate and Kinemaster apps on iPad. Now this process is actually very simple and easy to use and anyone can do it, so I'm not really going to spend too much time trying to give you a breakdown or an overview of how of what I'm going to be doing. We're just going to kind of jump right into it and begin. Now, before you start trying to draw or program anything, what I want you to do is write a rough outline of the scene you want to create. And you'll include stuff like the scene type, the characters, the enemies, and the main events that are going to take place in the scene. And here's a little sample of an outline that I've made for our Quest of the Gummy Witch game. And this saves me a lot of time and helps with smooth production. So now, after I've written down what I want in the scene, now I can kind of move on to like drawing or selecting the character that I want to have in the scene. So in this case, I'm not going to draw one because I've already drawn this character. This will be the Elder Tree, and he will be part of the scene that we'll be creating. So I'm just going to kind of copy this layer, and then I'm going to open up a new canvas in Procreate or whichever art program you prefer or have available. And I'm going to copy this character or this layer into Procreate, and that will save me a lot of time. And it will also help me when I'm arranging the scene. So after I've imported it, I'm going to create at least 3 layers below the character artwork. And one of these layers will be for sketching, the other one will be for the base coloring, and the other one will be for inking. And this will help me kind of keep my scene or my my design a little bit more organized. So you can actually name these layers, which is something that I would recommend that you do so that you don't lose track of them. And also if you're working cross-platform or working with someone else, it kind of helps them keep up to date with what you're doing. So all 3 of these layers should be below your imported character layer. So if you can see, as you can see, the Elder Tree was up above in the list. And you can also kind of play around with the background colors. A lot of times for the background, I'll tend to leave it transparent because I might be doing some animation, or I might want to put a different background in the animation or switch. So don't worry about that so much for now. And what you should start doing is just go ahead and kind of play around with getting your canvas set up. And what I'm doing right here is a few extra steps. I'm actually importing some of the dialogue box that I will be using to overwrite text in the video editor, which will be Kinemaster, that we'll be using later. But just for spacing, I'm going to go ahead and import that that text block into my my new canvas as well, so that I can kind of lay things out the way that I want them in the scene before I start drawing. This will help me make sure that none of the elements that I'm going to draw will kind of be hidden by the dialogue box or the character like the Elder Tree, right? So I'm just kind of moving him out of the way right now to where I can kind of put him in a good space to where you can see the background that we're going to draw. And when I start sketching, I'm going to keep these images in mind as to where they're located, and that will help me kind of sketch around them. So now I'm going to move on to the sketching part, and this is just going to be very rough, basic sketching using basic lines and shapes. So mostly we're just kind of using placeholders, so don't worry about making mistakes, just kind of have fun with it. And if you'll see, I'm just kind of making nice little scribbles and lines to indicate where the river and where the trees might be, as well as a few rocks. So nothing too serious, and this is kind of just like your layout mode. And then after I have a few of the lines drawn in and I know where everything should be, that's when I start adding a few more details, like grass and the riverbed, a few plants, just like basic stuff that you would find in the forest. This is going to be a forest scene. And then I'm going to continue to add little small details like these mushrooms and a little bit more detail to the riverbed. And then after that, once I'm satisfied with that, I can kind of move on to the inking process, which you're seeing right here. Again, nothing too fancy. I'm not trying to be too pretty with anything right now. As you can see, I'm also kind of drawing through other elements. So I've drawn the riverbed through this tree. So don't be afraid to draw through or overlap your drawing lines right now, because it'll give you a little bit more of a feel for where everything should be properly placed, and you're going to erase the unnecessary lines later anyway. So yeah, just kind of have fun like drawing through stuff to where you can get like more of a three-dimensional feel for where you want your objects to be placed. And then I'm drawing like a little rock back there in the background, and like a little piece of land to where the river is going to split right there. And then after we're done with that, we can just easily kind of go through and erase the unnecessary lines. So after I've erased all of the unnecessary lines and I'm kind of happy with the look and feel of the scene, then it's a good time to go ahead and start selecting the colors that I want to use in the scene. So if you have a photo reference or like some previous artwork that you've done, you can actually just kind of go in and create a color palette layer and start kind of like placing the colors that you want onto that layer before you copy them over to your new scene. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. So I'm just like stealing the colors and putting them on one layer. Then I'm going to copy and import this palette layer into my new cutscene background. And it'll be a quick color reference for me to begin my coloring. So I'm going to start coloring the scene using the base colors first. So I'm coloring the river, and you're probably wondering why my river is purple, but I'll explain that later. And I'm coloring like, the beach. Just the kind of the sand around the river. And so, just keep it light, just keep it, like basic flat colors right now. And we're going to start adding like textures later. And don't be afraid to like color through, as I had mentioned before, like drawing through. Don't be afraid to color through or play around with colors with different colors as you're like going through this process, because you might come up with something interesting. So this is pretty straightforward, so I'm just going to kind of let you watch how I color this scene, and I'll add commentary as necessary. Now, one thing you Procreate users may be noticing is that I am not actually adding my color to the outline layer. So I'm not adding my color to the lines. And there's a reason why I'm doing this that I will show you later. So I'm actually adding my color on a layer behind the line layer that I previously labeled my background colors. So there are no lines on this layer, it's only color. And there's a specific reason why I'm doing that, which I will show you later. So for now, I'll just continue to let you watch this, and then I'll explain that when the time comes up. But as you'll notice, I'm still adding base colors, trying a few different color variations of like green in the background, which will kind of give me a little bit more advantage for adding lighting and shading later. And so I've got like some light green trees, and I've got some dark green trees, and you'll see where all of that comes into play in a little bit. Okay, so now that all of the base color is done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the paintbrush or the airbrush to start overlaying some texture onto my scene. And this is where the Apple Pencil comes in very handy, because you can use the pressure sensitivity to add hard or soft touches to it. So if you'll notice, I'm just kind of going around each element on the scene that requires grass. And I'm just kind of lightly painting over it and just darkening as I go away from the edges. And that gives it a nice little texture. You know, even though this is a cartoony scene, you still kind of want it to look a little bit believable, a little bit more realistic. So if you'll notice, I'm like kind of lightly adding some touches to the front, and then as I go away from towards the back, I'm adding like darker colors. And I'm going to do that for the sand and for the rocks. And we're basically going to be using the same technique throughout the rest of the video, even when it comes to adding highlights and shadows to the trees. So I'll let you watch how I do that. And then there's a few other things that we're going to be adding to it later, but this is the main technique that we're going to use for most of our artwork. But using an iPad with the Apple Pencil really does allow for you to blend colors a lot more effortlessly when you're using Procreate. So if possible, I do highly recommend that you go out and pick up that combi, because it'll save you a lot of time and it makes working in Procreate a lot easier in my opinion. So once you're done with texturing, now would be a good time to consider your background or your sky. So you can actually choose that here, or you can choose to leave it blank if you're planning on just adding the sky in your video editing program later. Now, because I didn't do my coloring on the lines layer, that actually lets me easily create a color balance on the base color layer by using this simple technique. So for adding more highlights and shadows to the scene, basically you'll notice that I'm using the same kind of technique that we used before when we added the grass. So I'm just using the Apple Pencil to kind of blend colors in. So for the river, I'm adding a pink outline since it's our poison river, using the standard brush or airbrush. And then I'm going to use a water brush in Procreate to add more texture to the water to, well, make it look like water. I'm going to go around the river bed a little bit, adding a little bit more pink to that. And now when it comes to like the rest of it, we're just going to continue to use the same techniques we've been using before, like blending colors where it's needed to add more texture. And for this tree, if you'll notice, for the leaves, I'm adding some highlights, like a little bit of a lighter color to show where the light might be coming from. And for the tree trunk, I'm adding shadows, which we're going to blend with the natural blue color of the tree later to kind of fade it out naturally to give it more of a textured look. And for the trees in the background, we've already kind of got a good mix. For these plants right here, I'm using the same technique, and this gives you a lot of freedom and flexibility to kind of play with how you want your lighting and where you want it to come from, or how much lighting you actually want on your objects, right? So for the trees in the background, we have already got a good sense of depth because we added light trees in the foreground and like dark trees in the background. But the additional shading will actually help these out a lot. And since it's the animated scene and we're dealing with candy and gummy type characters, we're not really going to focus too much on like being like really precise with the lighting and stuff like that, because we wanted to look kind of dangerous, dark, and like at the same time kind of fun and yummy. So don't go overboard with the details unless it's necessary for your particular style of game. But with this one, we're just like, playing around with different colors, trying to make it look a little bit like alien and bizarre and stuff like that. So now for these mushrooms, we're actually going to be using the light pen in Procreate to make them look really alien and kind of dangerous, as in like don't eat these because they will definitely poison you. Kind of dangerous, and you know, like that also gives a little bit of an effect. For the river, since it's a poison river, I'm using the cloud brush in Procreate with the pink color. And I'm just going to like draw some lines of like a cloud or steam rising from this river. That basically means you shouldn't try swimming in here. And after that, it's mainly just cleanup. So if you'll notice, I'm going through cleaning up and removing all of the little unnecessary lines that were in there from when we were drawing through. And once the lines are cleaned up, that's basically it. And you're about ready to import your scene into Kinemaster. So first you're going to save the file as either a PNG or a JPEG. But once that's done, you're just going to open it in Kinemaster. And we're going to start making our scene, which will be something similar to this. Okay, so that's the end of this video. I hope you found the content to be very useful and helpful for your projects. Like I said, this is how I create my cutscenes in my videos for my projects because it's very simple, it's very quick, it's very convenient, and I can basically do it anywhere, whether I'm on like riding the train to work or like working at Starbucks. So it gives me a lot of flexibility and options for what I want to do with my development and with the story. I did not get a chance to actually show you how I edit the video in Kinemaster because I didn't want to make this one too long. So we'll dive into that in the next video, where I'll take you through the step-by-step process of how I do my video editing in Kinemaster, which is a free downloadable app that you can get for iOS on the App Store, and it is amazing, right? So we'll get into that next time. But of course, like if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and check me out on Patreon, where I'll be posting longer videos of more in-depth art and art tutorials and editing tutorials and stuff like that. And also, don't forget to stop by my Nerdy Urges online store, where you can find like cute little character-based products for my original characters, WildFIRE characters, and comics and games. You'll also find Quest of the Gummy Wish game merchandise on there as well that me and my kids have developed. So please stop by, check it out, and if you see something that you like, let me know. I'm also going to start doing some free giveaways each month to people who subscribe to my channel and like also follow me on Patreon. So stay tuned for those. So that'll be it for this video. Please feel free to leave your comments below, and I look forward to seeing and hearing from you next time. Okay, bye for now.